Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing some Unchained test hands. So this deck is a really amazing deck that is actually off the chain, and I really love playing around this deck. It has been a deck that I've been playing around with a lot recently, and it is super crazy how easy this deck is actually to play. Everything floats in the deck, and it's really amazing how you can just make all these different crazy plays, and it destroys everything on the field, which is great. I love the way that the deck plays. It's super consistent, and I'm really excited to show you guys this deck. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name description in a single video, getting a signed card in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron along with test hands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. And I will mention you guys too, I did accidentally make it a 16 card extra deck in the deck profile, which if you guys want to check out the deck profile, it is down in the description below. That is my mistake, and if you guys want to fix that, you can just drop a copy of Topologic Trisbania. I did drop the Topologic Trisbania or drop out the Nightmare Phoenix. I was kind of in between both of them. The extra deck is extremely tight, so you can pick between the two of those. It is an extravagance deck, so you don't really need either or of them. Particularly, I don't summon either of those all that often in this particular deck. They're kind of just both utility for spell and trap removal. So either which one of those you want to remove, you definitely can. So just a quick little upkeep note for you guys that did comment over on that video and say, hey, it's 16. I accidentally did that. That was me. I take blame for that. So let's go ahead and see what we can do for the first test hand and see what we can pull off with this deck. Like I said, this deck is really amazing in what it can do. It's really fun to play because basically you're using your opponent's link monsters against them, which is super fun to be able to do, or any monster they have to be able to link using your monsters is just a really amazing mechanic. I've loved this deck since it was released and just think it is ridiculously fun to play. So let's go ahead, and after we pile shuffle, because you guys know that is dad rule number one, to make sure that you pile shuffle in all of the videos. Let's go ahead and see what we can do. So we're going to go ahead and cut really quick. There we go. And let's see what we can get. So we're going to draw a copy of Abomination's Prison, a copy of Ice Dragon's Prison. What's all of that? Torrential Tribute, which is great. A copy of Unchained Twin, Sarama, and a copy of Rika. This is a pretty good, or the Water Twin. This is a pretty good hand because you have a lot of utility in this particular hand to be able to pop off into some really good plays. There's some really simplistic plays that you can do in this particular hand as well, because you have a lot of different shutdown plays as well to be able to kind of destroy your opponent's board. You have a lockdown where you're going to be able to deal with a mid-play interruption, and you also have a search in your hand as well, so you have a lot of different utility to be able to go into some really cool stuff. So right off the bat, I would probably go directly in for Abomination's Prison to bait out a copy of Ash, because I don't really have to have the search, but it's going to kind of bait out an Ash for later on, again, my opponent's turn, because they can Ash any of your searches from your deck to be able to special summon to the field, which is a little bit unfortunate, and I usually grab the Fire Twin because the Fire Twin is going to be the best. So if they do hit this, all you're going to do with this particular hand is set a couple of your cards. If they do hit this card with the Ash Blossom, you still have a couple of different plays in the hand that you can basically just set this card or set your copy of your Twin and then be able to set both of these on your field and pass, and you still have basically an interruption with the Ice Dragon's Prison and Torrential, so you still have a little bit of plays, because that's the way the deck plays. It starts off a little bit slow, and then once your opponent starts playing, you start playing along with them during their turn. But I wanted to do test hands of this to show you guys exactly how it goes off. But let's say they didn't interrupt us, and let's go ahead and play through like they didn't. I would just normal summon out my copy of my Unchained Twin, and then from my hand, I can use the effect of my Unchained Fire Twin, and it says that you can target one card you control, and you can't special summon for the rest of the turn except Fiend monsters, and you destroy the targeted monster, and if you do, you special summon this card from your hand. So I would immediately pop the Water Twin on my side of the field, and be able to special summon the Fire Twin to my side of the field, and then my copy of the Water Twin would actually go off, and her effect is that if this card is destroyed by battle, or this card is destroyed by card effect, except Unchained Twin of its own effect, then you can special summon one Unchained monster in your hand or deck, except another copy of itself. So I usually like to grab, if I'm going first, my copy of Unchained Soul of Disaster, because Unchained Soul of Disaster is just really good to put on your field, because you can use it during your opponent's turn as a quick effect to then link summon into Rage and then Anguish to deal with two monsters against your opponent. And you do kind of have a panic button button as a set card, which is the Torrential Tribute, that both of these can kind of float into other cards. Now make sure that you set away from them so you don't go into the Mech Knight plays, but it's just an option for you guys. Now this card is just going to kind of be a backup play in my hand. I'm just going to keep that right there. And then when my opponent goes, you can use the copy of Unchained Soul of Disaster. So what this card does is it has the ability that you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls, and immediately as this card resolves, you link summon a link monster using this card you control and that opponent's monster. So midway through their turn, when they start making really good plays, especially if they summon like an Anaconda, you can use this with the Anaconda if they're going for Dragoons, and then summon out a copy of, say, Unchained Soul of Rage, or if they're summoning out a Link monster, you can climb all the way up to, like, a copy of Abomination if they're using a Link monster, or a copy of Anguish. Usually it's going to be the copy of Rage, because you're going to stop a Playmaker to go into your copy of Rage. Now, Rage is really unique. It lets you Link summon again using your opponent's monster. So if you have an opponent's monster, then it has the ability, kind of like the same thing as Disasters, that what it lets you do is you can use this card, or during your opponent's main phase, quick effect, you can target a face up special summon monster your opponent controls. Immediately after this card resolves, you link summon a dark Link monster, except another copy of Soul of Rage by using only that opponent's monster and this card you control. So you can then, if you know that your opponent's about to stop playing, you can link this away, but they still have another monster on their field, you can link into a copy of Anguish. But however, there is another play that you can go for. If you don't want to go for the copy of Anguish on your turn, on your opponent's turn, because it's not a quick effect to link away the Anguish to climb into Abomination or any of your other monsters, you can actually go for your copy of Nightmare Unicorn. So Nightmare Unicorn would be a great utility here, especially if you're still trying to disrupt your opponent, because you have one card in your hand that you can then discard and spin something against your opponent, which is pretty good. Make sure that you special summon this in defense position as well, because it does help you out a little bit where you don't take damage. You also have some other unique plays that if your opponent's playing a couple of different the same types, you have another way to get rid of a third monster. So you've already gotten rid of one with your copy of Unchained Soul Disaster, you've gotten rid of two with your copy of your Rage, you've gotten rid of three with your Unicorn, and then the fourth monster, if they do keep special summoning, you have the copy of your Ice Dragon's Prison to banish one from graveyard, special summon a monster to your field, banish their card from their field, and banish the monster that you special summon from the graveyard as well, which is pretty good. I mean, you're just getting rid of a bunch of different cards against your opponent, so this card is really good, which is why I like carrying this deck to locals, is because your opponent's not going to be able to play really well against this, because this deck just really link summons. As long as they don't summon a monster that can't be targeted, you're fine. But if they do, as long as that monster can still be destroyed, you have the Torrential Tribute to just board wipe them on a summon if you have to, and then your copy of your Fire Twin will replace itself as well, which is pretty good. So let's go into the next test hand and see what we can do, because like I showed you guys, this deck is ridiculously consistent. I mean, you're not going to draw a bad hand in this deck. As long as you have a couple of cards to set and a play to go off with, you're going to be fine. Like, as long as you have like two traps in hand and you have one of the twins, you're usually fine. I like to open up the Fire Twin because I feel like the Fire Twin is the best one because it can special summon itself, but the other ones are really good too. So, drawing for turn, we're going to go into a copy of Escape of the Unchained, a copy of Ash, a copy of the Water Twin, one copy of Trap Trick, and a copy of Escape of the Unchained. So this is fine. This is not bad at all. You still have some really good plays in your hand because you can use your copy of your Water Twin on your side of the field. So she has the ability that you can quick effect target a card you control and destroy it, and you cannot special monster for rest turn except Fiend monsters. So you can use that on the field when she's on the field to use that effect, because she lets you only target when she's on the field because she doesn't target in the hand. So you can basically just normal summon her to your side of the field and then set both of these on your side of the field to be able to just set them on your field just to get you more plays. And you have a hand trap to kind of bait your opponent out with a little bit too. And that's the nice thing, is you can just normal summon this card to your side of the field and be okay. Now it does leave you a little bit open, or you can set it if you're trying to be a little bit more defensive, and then you can summon your copy of Disasters during your opponent's battle phase when they destroy this, because Disasters has a 3000 defense. But you can also use this card's effect to quick effect target a card you control and destroy it. So we can go ahead and use this card's effect to be able to pop our copy of Escape of the Unchained, because we have two of them. It's totally fine, and it has the ability, this card is set, is destroyed, then you could special summon an Unchained monster from the deck. So we're going to go ahead and special summon out again the copy of Disasters to our field, and once you summon out that copy of Disasters, you're going to be able to link summon against your opponent during their turn, which is again really, really good. You also have the Trap Trick, which Trap Trick has a lot of utility in this particular deck as well, where you can grab Ice Chains or Ice Dragon's Prison, we can grab Torrential Tribute, you can grab your copy of Heavy Storm Duster if your opponent's playing a lot of back row. It just kind of depends on what you need with the Trap Trick. The Trap Trick is kind of a catch-all wild card that's going to be able to just grab exactly what you need when you need it, which is really helpful for this particular deck. So you also have the Ash Blossom. So you have a couple of different interruptions here in your field and in your hand, because you can hit them with this and go into the copy of Rage as long as the monster can be targeted, and then you can use the copy of Rage to then link away again, and you can go for Unicorn in this scenario, or if your opponent has stopped summoning for the turn and you can kind of read situation to situation and they still have a monster on the field, you can just immediately summon your copy of Anguish during your turn, and the copy of Anguish is going to be really, really helpful, because if you summon this during your opponent's turn, you can't link summon because it's not a quick effect, but you can link summon during your turn to go into another monster using their monsters, which balances the deck a little bit. You also have the Ash that you can discard against your opponent to go into additional plays, and you also have the effect of your Trap Trick that you can activate against your opponent as well to be able to grab any of the following cards. You can grab your copy of Abominable Unchained, Chamber of the Unchained, you can grab Heavy Storm Duster, you can grab Torrential Tribute, you have your copy of Ice Dragon's Prison, and you even have, I think that's all my targets. Oh, and you have Escape from the Unchained, but I already have 2 of those, so I can't grab that one. So you have all of these different targets that you can grab depending on the situation, where, for example, if you need to target one of your Unchained cards and a card your opponent controls and pop them, you can use the copy of Escape. You can use your copy of Ice Dragon to banish a card from their graveyard, like if they're playing Tri-Brigade. This is really good for hitting the Fank Tail. You can use the copy of Torrential if they're starting to set up a really good board. If they're playing back row, you can use this. This, if they Ash your copy to get out your copy of Disasters the first time, you can hit them with the Unchained Chamber, and then this will get you your copy of Disasters to your field, which is really helpful for this particular deck. So you have a lot of different targets to be able to go into with your copy of Trap Trick, and you play doubles or triples of each of those cards depending on the card to be able to just grab what you need. And you also have the play right here that if your opponent does keep playing, you can pop your copy of your Water Twin on your side of the field and a card that they control to be able to special summon an Unchained from the deck, which can then be another one of your twins with this card, and then your copy of your Water Twin will give you another Unchained card on your side of the field, which can be the Fire Twin. And then if you want to, you can use the copy of Trap Trick to be able to banish a copy of Torrential Tribute, to be able to then set a copy of Torrential Tribute to your side of the field to then board wipe if need be, if you didn't get to summon your copy of Anguish. It's totally up to you, and it depends on the kind of play that your opponent's going into during their turn. So let's go ahead and do another, and I'm going to try and do some live duels with this deck, because this deck is ridiculously fun. I don't play Dragoons or anything in this deck. You can if you want to, but I don't feel like it's necessary. Like, I don't feel like I need it. I feel like I'm taking a step back when I play a card like that in this deck, because I don't like it in this build, because I feel like I'm already popping enough cards. I don't need the negate because I'm already like hitting stuff with Ice Dragon's Prison, and it's just not necessary. I don't special summon enough on my turn to go into it, and it shuts down my entire play where I'm just left with Dragoons and a bunch of traps. So let's go ahead and see what we can do for the next test hand, because like I just showed you guys, this deck is ridiculously consistent. It depends really on what you're trying to do against your opponent, and it depends on what your opponent's playing. As long as they're playing a deck that's special summoning, especially from the extra deck, you're going to be fine. You're going to be able to link away. Once they paid their costs for link summoning and doing stuff like synchro summoning, you can interrupt them at any point by linking their monster away with your monster, and it's really easy. So let's go ahead and see what we can do for the next test hand. So we're going to get a copy of Pot of Extravagance, which is going to help us out a lot. Trap Trick, Ash Blossom, Water Twin, Ice Dragon Prison. Okay, so this is a prime example of showing you guys why I play Pot of Extravagance in this build. Now, usually I do go first in this deck because I'm playing so many traps. It's just not very good if I go second, because I don't want to, like, I can go second, and I usually, if I get to push to go second, I'll try and summon the Abominable Unchained Soul against my opponent, which is a 3k beat stick. And pop cards, but it's still better to go first in this deck because of the amount of traps. So let's go ahead and use the copy of Pot of Extravagance, because you got to use it right off the bat. Make sure that when you use your Pot of Extravagance that you do cut your deck. I don't use Pot of Prosperities in this build. I don't care really what I banish, as long as I keep at least 1 Rage, 1 Anguish, and 1 Dark Link 4, I'm fine. Because I have so much utility with this deck to be able to go into. So let's go ahead and see what we can do and see what we actually hit. So we're going to banish 3, and then we're going to banish 3 again. And even if I hit the 3 copies of Rage, it's very unlikely that I'm going to hit the 3 copies of Rage, but it does happen. So we're going to hit a copy of Abominable Unchained Soul, Anguish, Rage. We hit all 3 of them right there. I don't know how I did that, but that's cool. A copy of Topologic Dragon, Nightmare Unicorn, and a copy of Dingirsu. See, I'm fine. I've still got 3 of these in the extra deck. I've still got, or 2 of these in the extra deck. I've got 2 of these, 1 of these, and a copy of Unicorn. I'm fine. And I get to draw 2 instead of just adding 1 from deck to hand off of Prosperities, which is what I'm not a big fan of. I like to have that extra card instead of going 1 for 1. So we're going to draw a copy of Escape, and we're going to draw a copy of Ash, which is pretty good. I mean, that's not bad at all. And I'm going to show you guys an example really quick. If you reveal the 6 off the top of the deck, I'm still probably going to grab these 2 off of out of all of them, or 1 of these off the top. At least probably that Escape, because the Escape is going to give me the most advantage in my hand, because I can pop it with the Water Twin. So I'm going to go ahead and shuffle the deck up and see what we can do for... I'm actually going to go into the deck. So we're going to go ahead and normal summon out our copy of the Water Twin and then set on our side of the field the Escape. And then I can go ahead if I want to, and I can pop, and I can really, really wait and not do anything with this particular card. So I'm just going to go ahead and set 3, and I'm going to pass against my opponent with this card normal summoned on my field. Then when my opponent goes, I can then go ahead and activate the Escape of the Unchained, and then be able to pop this on my field and pop a card that my opponent normal summons if I want to, and then they will both go off. This card will go off, and my copy of the Water Twin and the Escape will go off, giving me 2 Unchained monsters for the cost of popping an opponent's monster. So I'll be able to go ahead, and if I want to, you can special summon out your copy of your Abominable Unchained Soul, and it has the ability that if this card you control is destroyed by battle by card effect, you can special summon it, and if this card is special summon, you can discard a card and destroy a card on the field. So I can just go ahead and special summon my 3k beat stick if I want to off the copy of the Unchained, Escape of the Unchained, and then I can also special summon an additional copy of the Fire Twin or the copy of Sarama if I want to special summon Sarama. It kind of depends on the situation of what your opponent has and kind of reading the situation that your opponent's going to be going into, or I can do what I normally do and summon Disasters plus Abominable Unchained Soul to give me a Link Climb, and I have the copy of the Unchained Abominable Soul, which then I can discard a card and pop a card on my opponent's field, and then also I have an Ash to be able to discard it to be able to negate an additional card. So I've popped 2, and I've negated 1, and then I can also, if they keep summoning, I have the Disasters that I can use to go into a copy of Rage. So I've hit 4 of their cards with just my hand, and I've ended up with a 3k beater and a 18 that can link away like Masquerena against my opponent's cards, which then I can link away if I want to for another link play for like a copy of, say, you could link for an Anguish if you want to link for Anguish. I probably would link for that. And then I have more plays set that I can just hit them with this. That's 6 cards that I've just handled against my opponent because I've gone with... I had the copy of the Unchained, which is 1. This is 2. This is 3. This is 4. This is 5. And the Ash is 6. So I've hit 6 cards against my opponent with this particular field. And I still ended up with a copy of Anguish and the Abominable Unchained Soul. And I still have the Trap Trick set that during my turn, I can then activate the Trap Trick depending on what I draw. So if I draw, I'm going to draw in a copy of Abominable Chamber of the Unchained. I can still go into some more plays where I can just banish from the deck if I want another copy of Ice Dragon's Prison, just to make sure that I'm banishing every possible card that I need to against my opponent. I can banish 1 and set 1 on my side of the field, which is going to help me out even more to get me more plays. Now, I don't have any cards in hand, but in this deck, it doesn't matter. And if my opponent has anything on their field, I can then link it away with this, because it has the ability that you can target one face of monster your opponent controls and immediately lets the card resolve. You can link summon a dark monster, except another copy of itself. So I'm just going to immediately link this away with an opponent's monster. And there's a lot of plays in the extra deck that you can go into. I would probably just go into the copy of my access code talker because it's going to give me the most utility and most attack points as well at 5,300. And I can also banish for 1 pop as well because I can banish the rage to be able to pop a card on my opponent's side of the field, and then I have 8,300 damage on board. My opponent probably doesn't have anything left to be able to deal with me unless they've set something that can't be destroyed by battle or by card effect, but they've already probably normal summoned and I've linked it away with my copy of Disasters or popped it with the copy of Escape of the Unchained. So you have a lot of different utility here, or even hit it with my copy of Ice Dragon's Prison. You have a lot of different plays that you can use against your opponent here. So you can then swing at your opponent for the 8,300 and win the game. So I think that's going to do it for these test hands, guys. As you can see, it'd probably be a lot better if I did some live duels. As you guys can see with the deck, completely interrupted. It's in, like, when you don't interrupt this deck, I'm surprised that this deck is not like tier 1. Because this deck is absolutely crazy. And it does have its problems where it's very vulnerable to Ash, I will say that, but it's super fun and it's really budget, to be honest with you guys, except for the Ice Dragon's Prison, which you can change out if you want to. The Pot of Extravagances are like 20, but the main like core of the deck is very, very budget friendly. You can even change these out if you want to for something else. You don't have to play the Ice Dragon's Prison. It can be any other trap that you feel like you need, but everything else in the main deck is really, really budget. Like and the extra deck is just kind of whatever dark link monsters you want to throw into it. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely tell me what you think of this particular test hand video down in the comments down below, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.